I'm going to turn on Instagram. Ooh, are we ready? Steady. Gosh, I hope this works. You are live. Woohoo! So we are now live on, gosh, YouTube, Twitter, 2 Facebook pages, and Instagram seems to be working okay. But for those of you who are watching on Instagram, unfortunately, you will not be able to. Get your questions, because on Instagram we're doing it on my little phone here. But that means you can listen, you can watch, you can listen to other people's questions, and certainly you can listen to my answers. But unfortunately, you won't be able to participate. However, if you want to participate, we've got so many people coming up here on Instagram. If you want to participate, you need to go either to YouTube or to Twitter or to my main Facebook page or my healing Facebook page, where you could, if you race and you hurry and you're really, really quick, where you could get your question in. Anyway, for all of you there, welcome, 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 and we hope that you're going to enjoy the show. I have, in fact, actually told the story that I'm going to tell now. I have, in fact, on air in a previous time, I think quite a while ago, told the story that I'm going to tell now. But thinking about children, and of course I'm sitting here in New York City. I'm with my grandson, which is fabulous, phenomenal. I can't begin to tell you how much I'm enjoying myself with him. Even though at around 5:45, 6 o'clock time, he wakes up, and then he chitter-chats until we get up, or his mum will let him watch a show on his iPad and all of that stuff for a little while, so we can have a bit of a snooze and a lie-in. But the thing is, even if you're trying to have a snooze and a lie-in, he's in the background and he's chitter-chattering the whole time, and it's just phenomenal listening to young children. So I thought I'm going to tell you a children's story today. Most of us are fortunate. We have children who are phenomenal, who are normal, happy, healthy, all the things that we want in a child. That's as much as I'm going to say for now, because before we go any further, I would like to say good morning to my spirit guide, Gradle, who as always is standing to my right side. I'd also like to say good morning to Chris, who is helping me with my story time today. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, everyone.
Now, we are trying this. To my ears, Chris sounds her voice is a little soft, so you might hear me say from time to time. Can you repeat that? Can you say it again, Chris? Sorry, I didn't hear that. You're just going to have to put up with this, because we don't know what to do to get it any louder. Aren't we babies, Chris, in the world of technology?
It certainly seems like that today.
I know. Well, you're not such a baby. I'm a baby. Actually, my daughter, a few years ago, when all this stuff started to get really, going, and she'd say to me, Mom, you really need to do this. You really need to learn to get on your Facebook. You need to do FaceTime. You need to do Messenger, all these things. And she'd say to me, if you're not careful and you don't learn how to do this, you're going to end up being a dinosaur. I actually don't mind being a dinosaur, except that when it comes to doing things like this, it is a bit frustrating, I have to say. Anyway, so here's what we're going to do this morning. We're going to go straight into story time. I'm going to tell you my story. Some of you may have heard it before. A lot of you will not have heard it before. I'm going to tell you this story about a couple of children, maybe. And then afterwards I'll take all of your questions, and I'll do my best to answer as much as I can. We do like to sort of take maybe a good portion of the time that we have here for story time, but we always like to try and give at least a half an hour for those of you who have questions. So here we go. So as all good stories must begin, always, 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 as all good stories do begin, once upon a time. So this is our Once Upon a Time series. So once upon a time, a few years ago, a client of mine who had come to me because she wanted to make a connection with her mother, which we did eventually. It took us a while, but we did eventually make a connection with her mother. And during that connection and during that consultation that I had with this young lady, it came to light that she had a daughter, and her daughter was, I'm going to say, around maybe 5 or 6 years old at this time, and she was a full-time resident. The child was a full-time resident in a it's difficult to say what it was called really, but let's say it was a hospital, but it was a hospital specifically for special needs children. And it was an amazing hospital, and the children who were in this hospital were very much special needs children, as my friend's daughter was. The child's name is Laura. So at one time, the mother asked me, would I go with her to the hospital to see Laura, to connect with Laura, which I was happy to do. But at that time, I'm going to say my daughter, Samantha, who's wandering around the house as we're talking, and is now going off to work. So my daughter, who was then probably, I'm going to say 12, 13 years old, maybe a little bit younger, said to me, Mama, can I come with you, please? And as much as I was pleased that she wanted to come with me, I was very nervous about what she would see. So at first I said to her, really, darling, I don't think it's the kind of place that you'd be happy. Why don't you stay here? And we had a friend of mine who would have taken care of her. But she really, really said that she wanted to go. So against my better judgment, because I was nervous about the things that we were going to see, the children that we were going to see, I agreed to have her come with us. Now, I have to tell you that she was fine. Every single one of the children in this place was disabled, and some of them really badly disabled, very, very badly disabled, to the point where parents were not able to see to them, to cope with them. Some of them had physical deformities. All of them had perhaps some sort of mental deformity or lack. I hate the word deformity, don't you? But anyway, for the sake of this story, we'll use that word. And I was afraid that she was going to, that she was going to see some awful things, because there were some awful things to see in this place. The truth of the matter, it turns out that I was as much afraid for myself as I was for my daughter. How was I going to deal with this? What was I going to do? How was I going to cope with everything? So I went to see, I said her name was Laura, and it occurs to me her name was Lorna, actually. I went to see Lorna. She was a beautiful, beautiful child. She looked as if there was nothing wrong with her at all, but in fact there was a great deal wrong with her, and she definitely needed to be in full-time care at this place. And she was lovely. But of course, as I went to see her, I went to see Lorna in her room. I passed a lot of other children. I passed a lot of other situations. I saw some things that I really was not happy to see, because I was a scaredy cat, basically. Right. So in this place, they had a big lounge area, big sofas, chairs, and a huge rug that sat in the middle of this area, where many of the children who were able to get out of bed were sitting on the floor and playing and doing their own thing. And a lot of them had their parents with them, but a lot of the children were on their own and just sort of, I don't know, you can't really call it playing, but they were enjoying the time, the freedom that this playtime afforded them. So at some point, my friend had to go deal with paperwork, talk to the nurses and the doctor and so on. So I said, okay, you go off and do your thing, and I'll just sit here. I thought, if I sit in this nice lounge area, I can just sit here and just and just pretend that none of this is happening to me. I know, I'm awful. I was an awful person. But anyway, here we go. I'm going to keep going with this story. My daughter, however, wanted to go and explore, and I asked the nurses, and they said absolutely she could go and explore. And she went off to talk to some of the kids. She went off to sort of play with one or two of them. And so I was left there by myself, sitting on the sofa with a lot of these kids who were just sort of sitting around on the carpet. As I've said, every one of them disabled in one way or another. And there was one child, a boy. There's always one, you know. There's one child, a boy. The ugliest child I think I've ever seen, ever. Patience, don't judge me yet. He was an ugly kid. He had bright ginger hair, and he had a lot of it, but it stuck out all over his head. I mean, it literally stuck out everywhere. He had a large face, but it was completely twisted. So his chin, if you can imagine, was almost where his ear would be. His face was literally almost as if it was twisted around, totally lopsided. He had a funny little button nose, freckles all over his face, and his mouth was also sort of very crooked. And he was sitting on the floor. His arms were totally crooked, and his legs were totally crooked. And he sat on the floor, he sat on the carpet, and he slithered and wriggled his way on his bottom towards me. Now, my daughter's here. Do you want to say anything about this? Do you remember going to this place?
Yeah.
Awful, wasn't it? You didn't think it was awful. She was so brave. Children are far more accepting and easygoing of this.
I don't know if you need to do that. Let me just check it.
Okay, so anyway, so there is this child, this crooked boy, this crooked little boy, and the only way he could get around was shuffling on his bottom, and somehow he was sort of using his legs. His legs were crossed over each other, but you could see that they were crooked. And he couldn't use his arms because they were also crooked. So he was sort of shuffling and moving himself along the floor until he got right in front of me. And as I say, he was wearing PJs. His pyjama jacket had buttons down the front. And so, here we go. As he looked at me, as he came and he sat right in front of me, almost at my feet, and he started making these really weird noises, and there was drool everywhere, and I just pretended that I couldn't see him because I'm a coward, or I was certainly then a coward. And at some point he somehow, do I need to keep pressing it and doing that?
I think maybe, yeah.
So if anybody's on Instagram, sorry, and
They can't hear you.
they can't hear me, so sorry about this. So I have to keep touching the Instagram screen. So forgive me if we keep going on and off of Instagram. Anyway, coming back to the story. So here we were. And at one point, he somehow hooked his thumb in between the buttons of his pyjama jacket, and he yanked like this. And he made this awful sort of weird moaning sound. And I pretended not to notice. And he kept sort of making this noise and bouncing towards me on his bottom, and still I kept pretending not to notice. And a nurse went by, and by the tone of her voice to me, she was obviously disgusted with me, as she should have been anyway. And she went by the back of the sofa and she said to me, you know, all he wants you to do is do up his pyjama jacket, and if you do up his pyjama jacket, he'll leave you alone. So somehow I grabbed my courage in my hands. We'll talk in a minute about what I was afraid of, but I certainly was afraid. I was afraid I might hurt him. I was afraid of my own sensitivity. I was afraid of facing the fact that we're all vulnerable. There, but for the grace of God goes my child. You know, it's a very frightening situation. Anyway, so I reached forward and very carefully, very gingerly, I did up the buttons on his pyjama jacket. And I thought to myself, okay, now go away. And I looked in the other direction. And but I could see him out of the corner of my eye, and as soon as I'd done up his pyjama jacket, the nurse was incorrect. He didn't go away. He thought what a great game this was, and he made this awful sound again, put his thumb in his jacket, yanked, his pyjama jacket flew open, and he continued making these awful sounds, drooling. He was an ugly kid, he really was. Until I looked in his eyes, and all these years later, it makes me ashamed of myself, makes me ashamed of my attitude. I looked into his eyes, and his eyes were sparkling and joyful and full of mirth, and I realised that he thought it was really funny, because he obviously knew how uncomfortable I was doing all of this. As soon as I looked in his eyes, I realised that these awful sounds were not awful sounds at all. They were his way of laughing. He was chuckling at me. And I fell in love. Just like that. 1 minute I was not at all enamoured of this kid. Didn't want to have anything to do with him. And the next minute I could have scooped him up in my arms, because I saw in his eyes, right through to his soul, a pure, pure heart, and a beautiful child, a beautiful child. That said, I reached forward, I did up his pyjama jacket, and I started laughing at him, and I said, so then, you know, you got me, right? You really got me here. And he chuckled, and yes, got it, thumb in, yanked. And we played that game for quite a while. When you first see someone, it's so easy to judge, isn't it, by their looks. It's so easy to think, you know, hey, what an ugly dress, what a horrible, ugly pair of shoes, what an ugly face, that hairdo is good, look at, oh gosh, look at that awful hairdo. It's so easy, and we do tend in our Western world, we do tend to look at how a person looks, and let's face it, all the fashion magazines, all the things on TV around fashion, skincare, hair care, you name it, it's all about making us more beautiful to look at. But actually, sometimes the ugliest of people are more beautiful. If you look into their eyes and you can see beyond that physical, beyond the facade, then they're so much more beautiful. You look into a person's eyes and you can see joy, you can see sadness, you can see hope, you see all of those things. And this story of this little boy, this is not a spooky story. This is not a story about ghosts and ghouls and things that go bump in the night. And if you wanted one of those stories, you've not got it today. Next week perhaps, but not today. This week is about the way that we as people in this day and age, you know, we're in whatever it is, 2020, and all we see, so many of us, all we see is the outside, the facade of a thing. We never bother to look inside of a person. We're enamoured by, ooh, that beautiful dress, and what a fantastic colour that is on you, and you know, wow, and look at that fantastic hairdo. We're so involved in. Do you know how many billions and billions of dollars are made every year with makeup, hair, fashion? It goes on and on and on, right? And we very rarely see the real person. We very rarely see that person inside all of that. And sometimes the most beautiful people are the most ugly inside. And sometimes, as my story tells you, the most ugly people are in fact the most beautiful. This little boy, this ugly, ugly little boy, who turned out to be such a beautiful prince, such a beautiful child. Can you imagine? You can't use your legs, you can't walk because your legs are all crooked. You can't use your arms or your hands because they're completely crooked. You know, fingers all sort of like this, hands twisted. You can't do very much with that. Your face is, you know, such a twisted. You've got to squint in one eye. You've got this shocking ginger hair. I mean, it's almost as if God said, "What can I do to create the ugliest looking child with the most beautiful soul? What can I do to create the most ugly looking child with the most beautiful soul?" Right? And this was this child in front of me. Thank goodness he persevered with me. Thank goodness he got my attention to the point where I finally looked at him and I finally looked within him and I finally saw this phenomenal and beautiful soul that he is. I hope to inspire you all to get off the fashion kick for a bit, even if it's only for a couple of hours. Stop worrying about what makeup you should wear. Stop worrying about the clothes you're going to wear, because really and truly, you know, if you're going to work on something, yes, look nice. I try my best to look nice. I try to wear nice things. I hardly wear any makeup, just do my eyes and that's it. That's all you've got from me, because I hate spending time on that sort of thing. The reason I get my hair cut this short, Samantha hates it, by the way. The reason I get my hair cut this short is so I can quickly go out and about and get on with stuff. But I do like it as well. I like it spiky. But I try, if I at all possible, to spend as little time on what I look like, because what matters to me most is, well, what other people look like inside, what my students look like inside. I try to create around me a world where people are accepted no matter what they look like. You know, in so many ways, we're such a false society, because very few people are what they seem to be. This lovely little boy, this gorgeous angel child, sort of brought it home to me all those years ago. That looks, honestly, really don't matter that much. It's what is inside of a person that matters most, and I'd like us all to take that with us, even if it's only just for the rest of the day. So, the end. How did you like that story, Chris?
It is such an inspirational story, Rosemary. I always get goosebumps when I hear those types of stories from you.
Right. So, I don't know if I've lost you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're sort of like a bit tinny sounding, but if everybody else can hear you, that's okay with me. So, do we have any questions or comments? Anybody wanting to say hello? I'd like to say hello to everybody. What's going on? I wish that I had sort of this kind of eyesight. We have so many comments and so many things coming up from people on Instagram, and I'm so sorry, my darlings, that I can't accommodate you with your questions, but I'm pleased to see that you're all watching and connecting. And as I've said, you know, if you want to join me next Saturday, trust me. Oh, here's my daughter. Do you want to? Samantha's going to go up a little bit with our
as
Instagram.
Long as I'm not on the screen.
You're not on the screen. So let Samantha do it first. Go ahead.
Hecky Noodle
said
it's like the story of Janek. Hold on.
Yeah.
Janek. Very true. No amount of makeup can make your soul pretty. Somebody's saying, yeah, I think it's hard for me to do it.
Okay, so sorry, Instagram people, but I'll read all of your comments later, I promise you. Chris, why don't we have the comments from YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, if we have them, please?
Okay, so many people are sending you hellos from so many different states and countries. First off, Jan starts off with a comment. Good morning, all. Thank you for story time, Rosemary. Very generous of you to do this every week.
Well, I'm just sharing, that's all. If we all, wouldn't it be nice if we all shared all of our good stuff? Don't you think the world would be a much kinder, a much more loving, and a much more special place? So, for those of you on Instagram who maybe didn't hear that, because it is hard to hear, Chris, who was it again, Chris?
Jan.
Jan. So Jan says thank you for sharing, and I'm saying we should all share. Keep going, Chris.
Kathy says, thank you for taking questions. Today is my crossover husband's birthday and our anniversary.
Hold on. Today is her what husband's birthday?
Crossover.
Oh, today is her husband's birthday, so he's passed into the spirit world, yeah.
I'm making his favorite dinner and dessert later and popping some red wine.
Oh, good.
Do our loved ones join us for special occasions and celebrations? And do they celebrate?
So the question is, do our loved ones join with us? Darling, it's your husband's birthday. Don't think for 1 minute that he's not going to be there. Don't think for 1 minute he doesn't appreciate that you're making his special dinner, his favourite dinner and his favourite dessert. You need to tell us what that dessert is. I'm a dessert maker. I love desserts. I make cakes as well. I don't eat many cakes, but I do make cakes. But yes, our loved ones in the spirit world, they are with us. Every time I roast a turkey, let me tell you, I'm always connecting with my dad, who taught me how to actually roast a turkey, as he would say, the right way. So whenever I make a turkey, I always think of him, and I know that he's around me. And yes, our loved ones do join us. They do celebrate with us, which is why, even though, we're sad that they've gone. Of course we are. And we're grieving for them. Of course we are. We're human. But actually, so many times I hear people in the spirit world say, can you just ask her or him, would they just smile for me? Because they need to see us smiling and they need to see us joyful and happy. Keep going, Chris.
Darling says, hi, Rosemary.
Hi.
What I would give to have a moment with my Carl again.
Well, actually, my darling, you do have those moments. You may want, that moment, that physical thing that goes on, but actually those spiritual moments are actually much more powerful. And you have those moments in your dreams because he visits you in your dreams. I think you know this. But I do know what you mean. I do understand. And thank you for making that comment and sharing that with us. Yep, Chris?
Ravi says, hi, Rosemary. Good to see you again.
Hi, darling.
Love your story time. I just wanted to check. If by chance, do you have any awareness or knowledge about Akashic records? If yes, do you do Akashic records readings and clearings?
Well, yes, I do have knowledge of those records. I do not consult them. I do not connect. Here's how I connect with the spirit world. There's only one way that I know to connect. Actually, there are several ways that I think about it, but to truly connect and to truly have conversations, to truly learn, and to truly trust the information that I'm getting, I have Grey Eagle. And to me, he is the one who helps me, guides me. He gives me that information. It's information I can trust because I've been working with him now for over lots of years. Lots and lots of years. But I trust him and I trust his information and I trust where it's coming from. And so, here's the problem when you read something, no matter what it is. You can read a text from the Bible, you can be reading a good book, you can be reading a letter from someone, or God forbid you're reading all that stuff that they put out on Facebook. One person can read it one way, another person can read it a completely different way. So I don't like to interpret when Greg talks to me, if I'm not sure, if I don't understand it, I'll say to him, is this what you mean, or is that what you mean? And he'll tell me. So I'm not interpreting what I'm seeing or hearing. I'm actually trying as best I can to stick to the facts of a case. So if someone in the spirit world comes to me and talks to me, for instance, if I'm not hearing them correctly, I'm able to say to Greg, did he say red or did he say right? What, let's say. And he will be able to tell me clearly. So there are very few misunderstandings that go on between us. And I need to feel and have it confirmed that I do know what it is that I'm talking about. And I do have Gregor by my side to help me and to guide me in this area, which I think is really, really important. Keep going, Chris.
Amy says,
Hi, Amy.
it's a beautiful story. Thank you for being courageous to share.
Courageous? I don't think I was courageous. How am I courageous? Can you explain that, Chris?
If I were a guessing man, I would say that by you sharing your vulnerability, you allow us all to be able to share our vulnerability, and that's being courageous.
Right. Well, all right. When I write my books, the stuff in my book that is so personal to me, sometimes personal to my family, personal to my relationships, but as a medium and sharing with you, if I can't show my vulnerability, how can I expect any of you to show your vulnerability? And I'm not sure that it's courageous. I think it's nice of you to say, my darling, but I think it's just trying to be as honest as I can, because I try to show everybody. You know, people think I am really good at what I do. That's fine. I'm not boasting about that. It's just a fact. I'm really good at what I do, thank goodness. I'm good at what I do because I have Gregor by my side. I don't think that a lot of people think I'm that all-knowing and all-seeing person. People put me on a pedestal. And what I try to show you all as I'm talking to you and as I'm sharing with you and sharing my stories, my vulnerabilities, my awful behavior sometimes. I mean, why would I think that, well, gosh, I've never seen such an ugly kid. I mean, that's not nice, but that is what I thought. Okay, so I'm being really honest, but I'm human. And, you know, if you talk about these things, if I show you that I'm human, then that allows you to be human too. So I think if you're going to share, especially writing a book, you know, when I wrote my first book before it was published, I gave it to my youngest sister to read. And of course, the part about my family and my background, my parents, all of that stuff, how we really grew up, I'd sort of, to be honest, I just glossed over it. Because it was private, and it was also not just my story to tell, it was everybody's story to tell. So my sister read the book. It was like in manuscript form at the time. She came to my house with the book after she'd read it, and she just threw it at me. And she said, "Here you go," she said. I said, "What do you think?" And she looked at me right in the eye and she said, "If you can't tell the truth, don't tell anything at all." I knew exactly what she said. None of what was in the manuscript was untrue, but it was not the whole truth. That's what she meant. If you can't tell the truth, don't tell anything at all. Don't leave people with impressions that are incorrect, which is why I ended up writing The Eagle and the Rose, which was the most painful book for me to write. And if you've read it, you'll know why. And if you haven't read it, email me, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com, and I'll tell you how to buy a copy. I went online. We had my daughter's friends here, and we were talking about this book. And this guy went on Amazon. It's like, and I'm looking at the prices on Amazon. I'm thinking, they're charging what for this? What is this for this? One of these books was like $97. I'm thinking, who would be crazy enough to buy a paperback book? I know I wrote it, and I know it's a great book, but really, come on, $97, really. Don't do it. If you want a paperback, you can write to me, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. I think I'm going to say off the top of my head, it might be $7 or $8 for The Eagle and the Rose plus postage and packing. So you might want to go to Amazon and get it that way. If you go on Amazon, I get nothing because there are other people out there selling my books. Can you believe that? But anyway, when you write something, you try to write the truth of it and the whole truth of it, not part of the truth of it. Chris.
So I'm going to read you 3 comments, all similar. Judith
Can you
says,
shout at me a bit?
I'm going to read you 3 comments
Okay.
that are similar.
Okay.
Judith says, beautiful, touching story. He chose to come here in that body to teach us all.
Exactly.
Anne Marie says, I totally get it, Rosemary. It's not easy to be human. And Judith says he offered an opportunity for us to see beyond the outer to the inner, the soul and spirit.
I'm hoping that everyone in Instagram can hear you. Here's the deal, everyone on Instagram. If you can't hear, then you can go to the Facebook page afterwards and check it out because it'll still be going. Or you can go to YouTube and check it out because it'll still be going. And I think in these places you'll find the title is, what is it? Story Time with Rosemary. Yeah, Chris, keep going.
Bene says, hi, Rosemary. My love passed away last month. Is he still with me? Is he okay? Did he understand what happened to him? Thank you.
Okay, so it's hard to hear. So, Chris, this question, I didn't even hear the name, but it doesn't really matter. You know who you are, right? If you're listening. Her love passed a month ago. She wants to know, is he with her and so on, and does he understand what happened to him? The answer is yes, and I think there was another yes in there. Yes, our loved ones stay with us, but remember that when we pass into the spirit world, some of us do need a time of adjusting. That doesn't mean they're not with us, but they do need a time of adjusting because they've got their own selves to sort out, and we're not perfect, any of us, are we? So they have that to deal with as well. Chris, keep going.
I'm wondering if having the other phone on with Instagram is what's causing this issue.
If what?
If having the other phone on is what's causing this issue.
No, because we were having this issue before I switched the phone on.
Okay. Asma says, hi. Loads of love and blessings to you.
Thank you.
Whenever I sit and call my spirit guides, all I see is a young Egyptian girl from the times of the pyramids, I guess. Don't know if he is real or some imagination or what it means to me. If you can ask Great Eagle.
I'm going to say straight away with this, I'm checking with Grey Eagle, but I think that this is perhaps, let's say it's your imagination, but there's a very fine line between what is imagined and what is real. You need to look back at some of my videos. You need to look back at some of my Thursday videos, The Spirit World Sees All, and go back to where I'm talking about spirit guides, and you'll get a better sense of what I believe a spirit guide is. For most people, your guides are your loved ones in the spirit world, perhaps friends, perhaps even a grandmother or a great-grandmother that you never met, but who has decided she wants to steer and guide you. A spirit guide is not something that we all have. I know that many of you believe differently, and I'm not arguing with your beliefs, I'm just telling you from my perspective. A spirit guide is a highly evolved spiritual being who works 24/7 for someone who works 24/7. We're never off duty. It's like saying, that a first or second year nurse has the head of hospital walking around with them. It simply doesn't happen. So unless you are fully immersed and fully involved in this subject 24/7, it's extremely unlikely that you're going to have a highly evolved spiritual entity walking around with you. Why would they do that? Because you don't pay attention to them most of the time, and they are highly intelligent. They are teachers of the highest possible what can I say? I'm lost for words. It just amazes me that everybody thinks, oh yeah, I've got a spirit guide, but you know, sort of 60-70% of the time you're busy doing work, or you're with your girlfriends, or on your computer, but you're not you know, connecting with the spirit world 100% of the time. None of us can, you know, even myself, we don't connect 100% of the time, but I'm going to say we're way up there, because on some level we are connected 100% of the time. We are connected spiritually, we are connected in our knowledge. Gregor is always there for me no matter what time of the day or night, and I know better than to call on him for, you know, things that aren't important. However, we have a relationship whereby if I'm in the kitchen and I don't like something I'm cooking, or I don't eat a particular thing, I say to him, what do you think? More salt, more sauce? We have a relationship that goes beyond anything that anybody could really imagine. So please do be careful, everybody, when you talk about wanting a spirit guide and all of this. I remember I was in where was I, in Hong Kong, and a guy came to me. Oh, I've got seven angels all around me. They're with me all the time. You've got to be some special kind of a person to have 7 angels around you all the time. And anyway, what are they going to do all the time? What are they going to be all the time around you? No. So just please do use common sense, everybody. Right, that lecture over. I'm done with that. Chris?
R2 said, "Good morning, Rosemary, Christopher Eagle. I learned to stop using makeup. If I go out in the wind and rain here, I sort that out."
Well, thank you for letting us know that. I am actually going to, I know you can hear everybody groaning already, but I'm actually closing down Instagram now. If you want to hot foot over to my Facebook page, to YouTube, or to Twitter, you can see me seeing me there. But I'm going to close down now with you guys, because I can only be on Instagram for an hour, and we're nearly there. So I love you all, and hey, hot foot over to my Facebook page if you want to see the rest of it. Bye bye. All right, Chris. That's what am I doing? Hold on. Let me just do. There we are. So we're off of that. My battery was running out. All right, so
That's great that you were able to reach out to your Instagram fans.
I know Samantha was the one who told me how to do it. But anyway, let's keep going, Chris, shall we?
Yes, Hermeline Bear says.
Who?
Hermeline Bear.
Okay.
Wow, as a First Nation woman, society sees First Nation people as ugly.
I'm
Thank
sorry,
you.
I can't really hear, Chris, what you're saying. So sorry.
I'm not sure what else we can do.
If you shout just a bit louder, and I'll try and hear clearer.
Okay. Wow, as a First Nation woman, society sees First Nation people as ugly. Thank you.
Jeez. Well, you know, ugly is in the eye of the beholder, as we've said before. I think it takes a brave person to admit that they have looked or viewed somebody in this way, and then to learn that that is not the way to look. I can remember when my daughter was a little girl, there was a lady who lived sort of close by, and she had some sort of a birthmark that went almost all the way across more than half of her face. So half of her face, or more than half of her face, was this sort of vivid, deep purple colour, and the rest of it was normal. And I remember my daughter saying to me quite loudly one day when we were walking towards her, "Mama, why does that lady have a purple face? What is that on her face?" And for a moment, I wanted to cringe. Not for me, but I didn't want... I'm sure that this lady was continually bombarded hearing these things from people, but I sort of got myself together, and I remember saying to Samantha, well, that's because she's a very special person, Samantha. She has a very, very special and a very beautiful mark that makes her different, makes her individual. I think this lady heard me. I like to think that she did. We have to teach our children that, different doesn't mean ugly. Different isn't something to be afraid of. Different is something that is special to so many people. And I think we have to educate our children to look at things in that way. As you can see, I was a lousy example. Not that I ever said to Samantha that anybody was ugly when she was a little girl, but even so, don't do as I say, do as I do. So we are the examples to our children. We have to be a good example. Yes, keep going, Chris.
Mark said, I saw you and your handsome grandson, such an angel, on Instagram. And you, of all souls, teach us humility and teach us to look into one's eyes, the mirror of the soul. I had a similar incident many years ago, and what I did was, in order to understand this soul, I needed to first become this person, feel what this person was like in their world. Until I did this, I saw what you saw. Today, this is how I've developed my spirituality, by seeing from the inside out, showing tender, loving concern.
Wow, thanks, Mark, for that. Thank you. Such inspirational words. Keep going, Chris.
And Lord says, how we love that we take over to the other side.
I heard Amber and the other side. What was the rest of it?
Anne Marie said,
oh, Anne Marie.
This is how we love that we take over to the other side.
Yes, we hope so. Thank you for that, Amber. Anne Marie. Sorry, keep going, Chris. I'm sorry, everyone. The sound is not good today. We're going to have to get hold of Restream to figure this out. Restream is so good, though. They're so nice to us. They were very helpful, weren't they, Chris?
Yes. RT says, Rosemary and Gray Eagle, I'm trying to be grateful. I'm struggling. Any tips, please?
Well, I think in one way or another, my darling, we're all struggling. And I think that the only thing that I can say to you, I sat with my grandson yesterday. I was giving him a piano lesson. And we do this, it's almost every time I say to him, okay, it's time for piano, he has a moan or a complaint, or he doesn't want to do it, or Mosey says I have to do it this way, but so-and-so says I have to do it this way, and so on. And by the time we finish, the time that we've allotted for piano lessons, which is about a half an hour, is only 7, so you can't, you can only do this in short bursts. So the time that we allowed for piano lessons was done and gone and more besides, and we had a long conversation with him about attitude. If you approach something with a negative attitude, inevitably you're going to get negative results. Now, I know how hard it is. on a personal level, I promise you, when you're starving and you've got no money to pay the bills, and you've got a little girl who needs to be fed, and you're drooling over the fish sticks that you've just given her for dinner, hoping she's going to leave some for you. I know what it's like to have hardships, and I know how hard it is to have a positive attitude. But there are things that can help you. A mantra, for instance, or you can make yourself a chart, an ambitions chart, and you can do lots of different things. I know people are saying now probably, well, how do we do those things? And maybe we'll have a discussion about that at another time. And I've got a great story, actually, maybe that I'll tell you on Saturday morning, about a lady who was so down in the dumps and lost a job and had 3 kids to deal with, and on it goes. And her husband died. And maybe I'll tell that story of how I suggested she make an ambition card, which completely changes your attitude and helps you to turn your attitude around. So I know how difficult it is, but don't worry, it will come right. Give it time, give it patience. I hate it when people say to me, have a little faith, because I actually have a lot of faith. But even so, when you don't feel like giving it a shot, or you think that everything's against you, it's hard to have that faith. But have a little faith, darling, because it'll come right. Keep going, Chris.
Sunshine Moon says, what a lovely story at a time that we are required to wear a mask.
Yes.
Maybe with mask wearing, folks can sense others' soul and ignore the face with the mask.
Yes. Oh, don't we wish that would happen, really? Don't we really wish that would happen? We'll keep our fingers crossed and be positive, and hope that people are inspired by the story, but also inspired by the words that you are giving to us as well. Chris.
Maggie says the last few years, my ex-wife and son-in-law's mother at my grandson's birthday revert to disagreements and fights. Will this year be different? I stay out of it, but the wife throws me in later emails.
Oh, here's the deal. Okay, this is a great question. Right, I love it when the wife drew me in through emails. Well, you know what you can do with the emails if you don't want to be drawn in, don't you? You don't have to connect with them, you don't have to answer them, or you answer them saying, hey, how you doing? Hope you're doing well, click. And that's all you do. People can only do to you what you allow them to do. It's amazing how many times I hear somebody say, well, my mother made me do this, or and I'm not talking about children, I'm talking about grown-ups. My mother made me do this, or my boss made me do this, or, well, my friend so-and-so, she wanted to do it, so she made me do it. Come on, everybody. Take responsibility for your own selves. Take responsibility for your own actions, please. People can only do to you what you allow them to do. So if somebody is trying to get you involved in a situation that you really and truly don't want to be involved in, don't be. Sends you emails, hope you're having a good time, or please don't talk to me about this because I don't want to know, click, or stop answering the emails. People can only do to you what you allow them to do. If you allow yourself to become drawn in, that's nobody's fault but yours, Maggie, nobody's fault but yours. So you've got to be strong, you've got to be tough, and if you really don't want to be involved, don't be. It's as simple as that. Chris.
Anne-Marie says, Rosemary and Grey Eagle, what profession am I transitioning into?
Well, I wish we had more time, and then I'd maybe be able to help you, but we don't have enough time for that. So, if you really want to know and to get some really good advice, find a good medium, or find somebody who can give you, work advice or job advice, or, find someone who you can trust. Sometimes it's hard for people to make up their mind, but I always say, basically, follow your heart. do what your heart tells you to do. Sometimes what you want to do, what your heart tells you to do, doesn't align with the bills that you have to pay, does it? But as much as you can, follow your heart. For those of you who have, we've had so many people actually asking us about books, about the guided meditations. We've had so many people asking, well, what do I do to get a consultation? I'm going to give you the email again, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. Email and ask to be sent information on all of those things and everything that we do, and we shall gladly send you an email back. If you haven't heard from us within 2 weeks, then you need to email us again and keep emailing us again, because we do have a lot of emails, and my lovely Michelle at the moment is a little bit inundated with all sorts of other stuff in her life, so we're doing our best to answer as quickly as we can. But just, again, if you've not heard from us, if you've sent us an email and we haven't heard from us, then please, just keep emailing. I think this is the moment to tell everybody that on October the 24th, right, Chris? Yes. We are doing our first webinar, and we're going to, if you want to know more about that, if you want to know more about, for instance, how it costs, we're going to make it affordable for everybody. We're not charging hundreds of dollars, I promise you. So we're going to make it fairly affordable for everybody. We're going to be doing one of these webinars once a month, we're hoping to do. If you want to join, if you want to know more about it, if you want to know what the subject's going to be, all of that stuff, all of that information, we shall have it for you really, really very, very soon. And we'll tell you where to go to find out more about it. But if you want us to let you know, please email us, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. If you want to be put on the mailing list so that we send you all of this stuff automatically, you must request to be on our mailing list. We will not put you on the mailing list unless you specifically ask to be put on there. And when you're on the mailing list, you might get one email a week. So you get 4 or 5 emails a month. We will not inundate you every day with emails. It'll just be very simple, very easy. But we will, if you're on our mailing list, we will actually send you all the information that you need to know. So we're very excited about doing these webinars. We're really, really excited about it. They're going to last probably about 2 hours, at least 2 hours, maybe longer. We shall see. We've not quite made up our mind, but we have picked the date. We do have the subject, and we just now have to set it all up, right, Chris? We're this close to doing that. So within the next week, you'll have all the details if you want them. And we'd love to have you connect with us and join with us at that time. Chris?
Well, you're coming right up on the hour, Rosemary. There are a lot of questions left, but considering the problems with hearing, you might want to consider ending soon.
Well, let's just do a couple more, Chris. And we do apologise for the sound. Has anybody said that they can't hear you either, Chris, or is it just me?
A lot of people are saying that I'm coming across very tinny.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly right. You are. So I think it's something that's on your end, Chris. But let's do a couple more, and then we'll quit for today. But there's always next week, and there's always Thursday. Don't give up on us.
Okay, so Ivy says, thanks for doing this. You're looking fabulous in black.
Thank you.
Is there a difference when people in the spirit world are angels you feel walking with you versus loved ones watching you from the other side?
That's a brilliant question. We're actually having one of our webinars. I think it's going to be our Christmas webinar, where we're going to be talking about angels. We're going to be talking about all different kinds of angels, including earth angels. We're going to be talking about how it's possible that we can become angels in training. We're going to be talking about angels and more angels, because I just feel Christmas time, isn't that just the great topic for angels? And I've been so fortunate in being able to see so many angels. I've had an amazing experience with angels, and maybe, in fact, next week I'll tell you an angel story. So if you are up for it, Chris, could you make a note? I'm going to tell an angel story. The very first time I ever saw an angel. Anyway, all right. So I forgot what the question was now. But if you join next week, we can talk more about it then. And we certainly, as I've said, we're doing 1 hour December webinar. Our Christmas webinar is going to be all about angels and the difference between angels and our loved ones. And there is a huge difference. There's the difference between our spirit guides, our angels, and our loved ones. Huge difference. And you're going to get the opportunity to, we're going to be doing some little one-on-one things and perhaps even giving messages every now and again, and we're going to be doing all sorts of things on our webinars. So check us out. Email me, rosemary@rosemaryantair.com. Anything else, Chris? I know we've got tons of stuff, and I do apologise to everybody. One more, Chris. Let's pick one more.
All right. Marissa. Hi there, Rosemary. I have a 22-year-old son who has severe autism. He is nonverbal. I believe he actually sees things I can't. Although God bless him, he can't say. Can you give any help?
I can tell you this. Marissa, was it?
Yes.
What a fantastic last question. We've talked on live shows before about earth angels. Earth angels are all around us. We often don't know that they are. They seem to us to be sort of, in some ways, very ordinary, but at the same time extremely special. Marissa, you must know that this boy of yours is hugely special. And Gregel is I'm just checking with Gregel, because actually it was Gregel who said to me, another earth angel. So look, my darling, he is an earth angel. And as I've said, in December we'll be doing our webinars and talking about earth angels. And this child of yours, he is beautiful. Don't change him. Don't try to change him. Don't wish that he's anything different than he is. He came here for a special purpose, and his purpose is to inspire and to give hope. His purpose is to show, a little bit like this ugly child I told you the story of this morning. This ugly child came to this earth so that we could, those of us who were prepared to look, those of us who were paying attention, those of us who are aware, that we could actually see into this child's soul. And I know that when you look into your boy's eyes, you can see right into his soul. What a beautiful and special child he is. The first earth angel I ever came in contact with, his name was Tomas, and he's special child. Special, not such a child anymore, but Marissa, you have right in your lap this perfect and beautiful earth angel. You want to know more about that? Join us in our December webinar, and I'll tell you all about our earth angels. And I will, at some point on our Saturday show, be telling you the story of Tomas, and I'll be telling you how, usually mediums, or I shouldn't say mediums, because I don't work necessarily the same way everybody else does. Usually, if I want to know about someone, if I want to see someone, I will travel to them. I will travel to their home. I can be standing in an audience of 2,000 people, and I can travel somewhere else. Usually it's to a past time or to a past incident, and I describe how this sort of, I call it going back and down and through the hole, and I describe in some of my books how that happens and how that works. But with Tomas, he actually came to me, which was so surprising and shocking to me because I was not expecting it at all. This is the fun about being a medium. We have all sorts of things happen to us all the time, new things, exciting things. We're always open to learning and hopefully we're always hoping to growing. Thank you for that, Marissa. What a beautiful child. Thank you for your question. What a great last question that was. So I'm going to say, first of all, thank you to Great Eagle for being here with us today. Thank you, Chris. I'm sorry that the sound is a bit off. We'll have to figure that out. It could be just some small thing that we're not doing right. I don't know why, but anyway, we'll have to we'll try and get that fixed for next week, everybody. Thank you all for joining me. I so appreciate it. You are wonderful. I love having you. I consider you to be my fans, my family, all of those of you who are wanting to learn and to grow just as I am. I know that many of you say that I inspire you, but please just let me say that you all inspire me too. I will be back here next Thursday, same time, same place, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, for our the Spirit World Seesaw, where it's mostly questions and answers and questions and all of that stuff we do. We do have fun doing that, and so we should be back then, and we should be back next Saturday morning for our story time. Thank you, Chris, for giving up your Saturday morning for us. We really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. We hope you've had a thoroughly good time. I do hope you liked my story and that it inspired you somewhat, as it certainly did me. So until I see you all again next week, please have a very, very blessed rest of the day, and have a very blessed weekend, everybody. Be kind. Please be kind. As Gregor will say, your world needs gentleness. And boy, does it ever. Bye, everyone.